When you think about playing video games, you'd probably think about playing the game, shooting the baddies, creating a neato farm, developing your communist Caribbean utopia, whatever flavor of game you're munching on that day. However, every game is littered with periods of time which, instead of rocking the Joy-Con and impressing all of your cool friends with your Thicc Gamer moves, you've been tasked to do nothing. The game has subdued your radical controller king/queen body by making you wait. But why? Why would a game limit someone from reaching peak player physique? Why would a game stop a person from mounting the heights of human excellence by restricting how much they can jam out on the instrument of life? A keyboard? Is it because letting a gamer galvanize their human form to transcend time and space, self-actualizing past personhood, achieving a neo-godlike existence would shatter the tenuously held together fabric of society? Surprisingly, no. It's because sometimes the technology of a game simply cannot provide the adequate girth that most gamers require, while other times it's because it's good game design. Being the elite level individual I am with the wordsmithing of Shakespeare and the science smart brain of Einstein, I've conducted a flawless analysis of all gaming, and concluded that waiting in games can be placed into one of two pithily named categories: waiting but bad, and waiting but good. Waiting but bad, occasionally referred to by a group of gaming ne'er-do-wells as bad waiting, is when the game developers would prefer not to have the player wait at all, but are shackled by the limitations of computer math. Waiting but good, or better known by its stage name, good waiting, is when the game developers have politely asked the users to hold their horses, but not for the sake of adding tedium or their own sick twisted amusement, but rather as a trust exercise designed to improve the gaming experience. Let's kick down the door of gaming intellectualism and pry open the beast that is bad waiting. What is it? Well, it's a lot of things, but the main exhibitions of it are loading screens and lobbies. For the most part, games are always trying to limit the amount of time spent in this arena, basically because that shit is boring as fuck, and I came here to play video games and not play video games. And if you aren't endlessly stimulating my attention, then I might just have to stop playing your game and do something better with my time, like lie on my bed and aimlessly look at shit on my phone for hours as I actively feel my brain melt. Games are constantly venturing to purge themselves of the loading screen plague, which is really hard, because games are a lot more complex than they were in the old times, and require more computer brain juice to operate. Check out Pong. That shit's like 8 lines and some dots. Cyberpunk is at least 3 times that, so obviously it's going to take longer to load. When this is done well, games are ever expansive and players can play for hours without ever experiencing a loading screen. This can make the world immersion way more apparent, overall improving the engagement for the game and the experience of playing as a whole. However, this is mad difficult tech to actually perform, and the current hardware meta simply doesn't allow it. So many games are forced to include loading screens, which most people understand and are fine with. Now, obviously, this can be a bit extreme in how long things take. I've had certain loading screens in Fallout and Skyrim be over a minute long, which is hella fucking lame. But this pales in comparison to simply trying to start playing GTA 5, where the loading screen to even let you play the game is many minutes long, even longer to play GTA Online. A theoretical study, possibly conducted by top researchers at Real University Oxford, determined that the total time GTA 5 players had spent looking at the beginning loading screen was 100 billion years. This is obviously a crazy amount of time to just be straight chilling with your thoughts, so games do what they can to keep the player amused, rather than just having them sit in silence and stare at a black rectangle, and when this does happen, it's kind of lame. Some of the approaches are fairly simple, such as giving the player a super useful and incredibly insightful tip for the game, one that will always help elevate the player's abilities. Sometimes the game gives the player a nice pretty picture that we can look at and think, wow, that's a nice looking picture related to the game I want to play. Gee whiz, I can't wait till I don't have to look at this picture anymore and I get to play the game again. If the game is feeling overly bold, it might even let the user play around with one of the game assets. This is particularly nice because the spitting of this random item in the game somewhat mirrors the actual playing with the game assets one might experience when actually playing the game. But hey, it's not all about visuals, ear sound is important too. So often the game will give the player a sick track that they can straight vibe to while they wait. And big shout out to the visionaries that let players fart and burp during the loading screens of the Crash Bandicoot racing game. All of this, however, is rookie league shit. Because the real way you can appease your audience during a loading screen is to give them another, usually undoubtedly shitter version of the game and let them play that. Assassin's Creed has been on this gravy train for years, letting players run around as the character in an Anubis-styled area. And honestly, I could watch Ezio run around for literal seconds. Woo, what a thrill. Loading screens, however, are highly limited because of the fact that they are spending time trying to load the game. Lobbies, on the other hand, have no such issue. While players can wait for a game to load, knowing it's usually the limitations of hardware or technology as a whole, lobby wait times are because of the game developer's shitty matchmaking system, or because not enough people are playing the game. So how do games keep players engrossed when they're basically telling them to grab a number, take a fucking seat, and just wait their turn, like they're at some slow-moving bureaucratic place, one that's well known for its slowness and having people wait? Well, as insightful as in-game tips always are, that shit isn't going to cut it. No, games need to think of something a little more engaging, especially if the wait time is many minutes. Back in the day, it was common for games to just have you wait in the lobby as it slowly filled up with the other people you were about to play the game with. They'd maybe let you look at your career profile or any challenges you maybe needed to complete, but these were usually fairly limited. So it was mostly just sitting around and doing fuck all. Nowadays, many multiplayer games still have this, but the stats recording and challenge systems are much more advanced, so there's more to look at. Furthermore, games are really trying to expand on the let the player straight up play the game in a different way variant of waiting. Take Overwatch. Let's say I wanted to join a high-ranking silver game as a DPS player. The lobby is going to take about 10 minutes or so. If I was confined to the old method, I'd be forced to wait around, maybe opening loot boxes or going through my career stats, which is fine and still something you can do. However, the game gives you tons of options and other sorts of ways you can play. You can go into a practice arena, jumping around, getting to test out the various heroes, a great place to learn and grow as a player, especially with heroes you don't play. So if you start to play a new hero in a game, you don't have zero experience. At the very least, you've used their abilities and understand their unique weapon mechanics. This is taken to the next level because you can join a bunch of player-created lobbies, which are filled with all sorts of custom games, some of which are incredibly detailed and really fun variations of the game. One custom game I play a decent amount is 1k damage, where you get a random hero and once you do 1000 damage with them, you'll switch to a new random hero. Both the practice arena and the custom games are great and both things you might want to do or even need to do. However, it's not something that you necessarily want to explicitly ever do over playing the actual games themselves. So having these fun activities that are beneficial to you be available while you're waiting for the actual game is amazing and a showcase of excellent game design because it turns bad waiting into a fun experience that you also enjoy doing. And that's one of the two ways to combat bad waiting. Give the player something interesting to do while they wait. The other is just to not have them wait ever. When this sort of waiting is notably bad, however, it's fairly obvious because you'll probably be doing something else, like going on your phone or just turning the game off altogether. Waiting isn't always something to overcome though. More often than you might think, games actively make you wait in order to make the game better. These fall into two main categories. The first is something most games have, which is making you wait for your character to do something. In the simplest form, this is how long an animation can take. The other side of this coin called cash money game design is having the wait be dictated by a timer, a ticking clock that restrains one aspect of the game but still allows you to be free and spend your time as you damn well please without the horrible interference from Thicc Gamer. Let's start with the first one I mentioned, waity for character to doey, because I'm all for linearity. If this video was a game, it'd be a bad game, because there's no actual gameplay to it, and it's a video. In life, we want things real quick, not all slow and shit. Like the other day, I was making myself a gourmet bowl of cereal, and while I would have preferred to have the food's nutrients be instantly absorbed into my body, I had to take the time to actually make and eat it. Games try to replicate this sort of things taken real time to do, and wow, color me impressed. Having things happen immediately in games would actually be worse. Let's look at shooting guns. There are over 8 games with guns in them, so you've likely had this experience. When you first start shooting a gun, the bullets fly out of the gun, pew 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 style, like they're designed to do. But the good time of shooting the gun will quickly stop. Is it because the game is broken, or perhaps anti-gun laws have finally made their way to games? Neither. It's because you need to reload. You need to stop shooting, wait for your character to laboriously replenish the ammo supply, and then you can restart the bullet train's journey to Deathfield, for those you have decided to share your expansive public transport infrastructure policy with. There's no need to actually reload. The game could program itself to have unlimited ammo that goes forever. And for most people, reloading, as quick and simple as it is a tedious task, one that takes away from the fun of the game, one that has led to countless deaths at the hands of awkwardly trying to dodge enemy bullets as you watch your character robotically place ammo into a gun. But if you ask people if they could not have the need to reload in games anymore, most people would think that's a really bad idea. One, because people like a sense of realism, like I mentioned during my awesome cereal story. These waits create challenges, they make the game harder, they add in a level of depth that the player must maneuver around. Some guns are fast to reload, but might have less bullets, or do less damage, while other weapons might have a lot of ammo or take a long time to reload, but make the player slower, or whatever the game wants to do here. This applies to all these animations, these small animations, jumping, picking things up, the always smooth and reliable using of a ladder. All these add to the game, because they can create more challenges or give the player mechanics they need to work around and within. Now, sometimes these exist and it's just tedious, and removing them is good. A classic example is the time it takes Arthur to skin animals in Red Dead Redemption 2. Some people hate that it takes so long and is unskippable, but others love it and feels like it builds out the world and makes each action feel more real. It really depends on the game, because even though I'd prefer not to watch the same animations time and time again, I get why the game made this choice. While in a game like Bioshock Infinite, I think it's good there's not an animation every time you pick something up. You press the button and instantly get the item. So there's a balance. Sometimes it's more than just character animations. Sometimes these mechanics are actually key to the game, and how long the thing takes to do is very crucial for the player to plan around and work with. The Sims series is a prime example of this. Would the game be better if you did every task instantly? No, obviously not. It would be so much worse. Go to the shower, insta-clean. Start to paint, oh, the painting is done and you're now level 10 painting. First day of the job, welcome aboard, newbie. I mean, boss? No, this would be mega dum-dum. The whole game is based around these actions taking time. You need to take the time to actually keep your Sims alive and happy, and progressing through a career or a relationship, investing real time and effort is what makes the successes and results rewarding. On the surface, waiting in video games seems like a bad thing, but in reality, waiting for a character to do an animation is so fundamental to all games that we don't even really think about it at all, let alone as an important and crucial part of the gaming experience. On to the last segment, ticky clock. When the game makes you wait for them to complete a process. The reason for this is largely to enact a sense of realism, or create a sense of balance, or to elevate the sense of accomplishment the game produces. Many of the things we just discussed. As these mostly exist for similar reasons to what I just talked about, I won't go into it. The types of things I'm talking about is stuff like putting an item to be constructed and being asked to wait a set amount of time as a machine in the game goes brrr and constructs it. It can also be things like cooldowns, where you have an ability that can only be used periodically. Learning and mastering these wait times and being able to effectively micromanage your game around the constraints is often what elicits joy and satisfaction from these games. In the same way, having an excellent grasp on animations lets you do amazing things with a character. Understanding these systems lets you manage the game really effectively and can make you incredible at it. This, however, is sometimes abused. Now, I've been saying this is done to make the game better, and while that's the aim, sometimes it makes it so much worse. Like, actual garbage. We can see this fuckwittery in phone games. There's a whole collection of wildly overpopular games that have this formula. There's a game with gameplay that ranges from utter trash to I guess some people really like it. But being allowed to play is the biggest challenge you'll find. Not because of loading screens or lobbies or anything justifiable, but because the game puts all sorts of ridiculous artificial barriers and really long multi-hour countdowns on how often you can do things. This isn't outwardly terrible, it's boring, but whatever. Also, the games I'm showing on screens are the better exhibitions of this idea and not really the main culprits I'm talking about. The pernicious thing about this is that the game is 100% willing to let you keep playing the game. In fact, the game is actively encouraging you to play as much as you can. The only thing you need to do to keep playing is not wait. Nah, waiting is for fucking dorks. You just need to give them money. Lots of money. Buy their in-game currency and you can free yourself from their timers. And that's the central pillar of the game. Pay money to actually play. Of course, people can do what they want with their money, but these can be predatory, and I don't like them for a slew of reasons I'm not going to go into. Apart from these games, having games create artificial wait times is good. It can make your character and the world feel so much more alive and real. It can amplify the fun and rewardingness you get when playing, and it can even be a key component to making the game function in a balanced and logical way. Ultimately, waiting in video games is something that all players experience, and sometimes this waiting is doo-doo and a bad time, and sometimes it's critical for the game to actually work. And that's it, that's the video. Thank you so much for watching. I'm going to keep producing content, some of it this sort of vibe, some of it will be more specific game analysis, some will be challenge sort of stuff, and other things too. So if you enjoyed this and want to see more, please do subscribe and check out my other videos, but for now, that's it, and I will see you later.